brakes are on. It's all to race for. Coming to turn 4. Oh, he's hit him. He's done it.
What?
Oh, he's taken 2.
Absolute chaos at the start. There's another one into the wall. Barges Herbert out of the way. Guan Yu Zhou, he's taken the lead. What can Jimmy Brock do? Oh, no! Fantastic action all the way to the end.
Side by side, round the outside. Alex Albon's on 10, and he's cool-tharded it. Charles Leclerc across the line to win in Australia.
Holtz has got the inside line.
Good luck here.
Let's have it.
And Charles Leclerc wins the Virtual Grand Prix of China from Alexander Albon. Lights go out and away we go in Brazil with a spin immediately for Van Dorn. That is so close to a potential race-ending accident there. Victory for Alex Albon. George Russell takes the lead, but he's got that penalty. Charles Leclerc's got a 3-second penalty. No way! First time in Virtual Grand Prix, it's a win for George Russell.
How good was that action? Well, there's more to come tonight. Welcome to the Gfinity Arena, the home of F1 esports, where tonight we are heading to, has to be, the most glamorous virtual Grand Prix to date. We are heading to Monaco. So glad to have you on board. Joining me on the desk tonight is Sky F1 presenter Natalie Pinkham. Natalie, no Monaco in the real life world. Sad to miss it.
Oh, I mean, it's devastating, isn't it? Because it should be on everyone's bucket list. It's the ultimate. It's the jewel in the crown. And if, like me, that you are completely gutted that it's cancelled, please spare a thought for the Starlight kids, because these are children who are granted their ultimate wish. They're very poorly children, and they are taken to the Monaco Grand Prix every year. And, of course, with the cancellation, it means they can't go, but we can still support them.
Yeah.
They've got an online auction. It's called the StarlightGrandPrixAuction.com, and there is some amazing prizes, amazing lots up for grabs, including Max Verstappen's race suit from last year.
Oh, indeed. Fantastic. Well, the thing is, though, that in terms of amazement, it's all been moving drivers in terms of the F1 at the moment. What sort of caught your eye?
So much has happened since I last saw you, hasn't it? Do you know, it's a rare occasion where everybody in the driver market, at least with this couple of big moves, is happy, because we've seen Carlos Sainz be promoted to Ferrari. It'll be interesting to see how he copes with the dynamic with Charles Leclerc potentially being his number 2 driver, because he's a tenacious driver and he won't want to settle for number 2, but more of that later. And then we've seen Daniel Ricciardo go from Renault to McLaren, which I feel is a lovely fit. Him and Lando Norris will no doubt get on famously. We've seen them in some of the press conferences, crying with laughter. So, yeah, good to see. I want to see who goes to Renault, though. Maybe Fernando.
Yeah, get ready for all that social media explosion from those two at McLaren. However, before we get to proceedings, it is my absolute honour to introduce a very special message from His Serene Highness Prince Albert of Monaco.
Good afternoon and welcome everybody from the Principality of Monaco. Today we should have been hosting the F1 Grand Prix de Monaco and presenting some spectacular racing action for F1 fans around the world. Unfortunately, as you know, this has not been possible. But we look forward to welcoming you next year for the Monaco Grand Prix experience on the 4th weekend of May. Thankfully, this afternoon, all members of the ACM Grand Prix organization and F1 fans around the world will still be able to enjoy some great Formula One entertainment with the F1 eSport Virtual Monaco Grand Prix. I would like to congratulate and to thank Formula One for producing this Monaco virtual race, and to thank all drivers for their support and wish them good luck and have fun in this race. So let's enjoy some spectacular racing action. Thank you.
Well, there you go. How good was that to get a message from His Serene Highness Prince Albert of Monaco? Well, listen, we know how good Monaco is as a circuit. If you're just thinking, well, how good is it? Take a look at this.
It looks an absolute picture on the French Riviera.
There is certainly no more prestigious race.
Short race here in Monte Carlo. Very hard physically.
A hard race.
It really hurts.
Winning Monte Carlo is always a dream.
There is no money in the world that can pay you to have such a good feeling.
We won Monaco, so
There you go. I mean, beautiful moments there, Natalie, you can remind yourself of, and for everybody. However, we are going to get to that racing very shortly. However, I'm delighted to say that I'm now able to introduce a special guest for tonight's show, a man that has won 2 Formula One championships back-to-back and certainly knows his way around the streets of Monaco. It's the one and only Mika Häkkinen. Moi moi, Mika.
Hello and good evening.
Listen, Mika, great to have you on the show. Now, you won Monaco back in 1998. Do you have any advice for tonight's drivers?
Well, I would have, of course, many advices. And now, of course, after many years retirement, I have plenty of time to give advices. Because when I was racing, I didn't want to give any advices to anybody. But anyway, I mean, of course, you can naturally imagine when you are racing Monaco racetrack, stay out of trouble, stay out of the barriers. Keep your lap times consistent. That's very important because then you can build the momentum to create a good lap time.
OK, so that consistency then, Natalie.
Absolutely. It's, Mika, it's one of the slowest, shortest tracks on the circuit, yet it always delivers such drama. How much of a psychological and physical challenge is it as a driver?
The Monaco racetrack in my time, and with, of course, in the agenda these days, there's more races and of course, other challenges, tracks like Singapore, example. But Monaco requires a little bit extra effort from the driver psychologically. It sounds a bit silly, but you basically have to be even more organized than normally you are. And all the marketing events, what you need to do when you're a professional racing driver and racing, it has to be planned very carefully that it doesn't disturb your driving. And wow, it's just like I said, every corner in Monaco racetrack, there's a risk. The driving racing line has to be so perfect all the time because slight little taking offline some corners, you will straight away damage some parts of the car, and then the race is over.
It looked like there for a moment, Mika, that you were reliving it, driving around the circuit, the way you were swaying from left to right. In terms of sim racing, were you able to ever use any of the sims, or if you were to step back, because I know a few legends are getting back into racing via the sim, is that something you'd consider?
Well, I think all these type of virtual racing and sim racing, I think is absolutely brilliant. It's just fantastic. I'm so excited that way today's technology allows to people who are passionate about the racing to take part of the racing. It's also great that way many current drivers also taking part of it. And I think if I would take part of race like that, I think it would be brilliant. But I have to admit, I really would have to look my mirrors all the time. Where are the others?
And Mika, when you win in Monaco, how aware are you that you're joining such a great list of absolute legends that have done so before you? Because I feel like in '98, it was the turning point that then took you to the title. Does it feel like that?
It does indeed. Winning the Monaco Grand Prix, it's such important for the driver, and why it is winning Monaco Grand Prix so important for the driver, because definitely the team really start believing that this guy, he really is good. And of course, yes, the team support you. Yes, the team gives you the good car and good mechanics and engineers, but that's like I don't know, is it the right word, like a cherry top of the cake. That way, the team really say, hey, this guy, he can handle this challenging racetrack between the barriers. This guy has a material to be a world champion. So the teams put extra effort for the driver. So that is the time when the driver has to put the feet down and start thinking like, well, I'm already world champion. No, then you have to really start working harder.
Now, in terms of the drivers who are going to be driving tonight, the likes of Arthur Leclerc, Alex Albon, George Russell have been in phenomenal form. Any of those drivers stand out for you that could potentially move on into real-life racing and become an F1 champion?
I mean, certainly all those drivers are fantastic drivers and talented drivers. Just example from my personal experience in Formula One, it did take me, first of all, 7 years before I won my first Grand Prix. So it requires a lot of discipline to able to handle disappointments. You really have to work hard on yourself to get the best out of yourself. And it can take weeks and months and years before this happens. Can one of these drivers become a world champion in the future? My answer is of course. Which one? It's such a difficult question to answer with the confidence, because it not only requires a great talent, it requires the right personality, also how you are working with the team, with the management, with the engineers, your feedback, the whole package. And it's a long journey. This is not just a 1 year and one race or anything. It can be such a long journey, and that journey requires so much energy. And the driver who has this discipline and long-term view, and also including the management, those guys, they're gonna go flat out. They're gonna win. But again, coming back to the same question, I don't know which one of those will be the world champion, but I'm sure one day one of them, yes.
Listen, Mika Häkkinen, Kiitos to you. Thank you very much for coming on board for the F1 Virtual Grand Prix. Just threw a bit of finish out there.
Like
Why
that.
not?
Appreciate
there you go. There we go. So Mika Häkkinen, fantastic to understand what it takes to be a winner.
Yeah.
But when we look at the drivers tonight,
Yes.
one of them has to win this. Looking at the lineups tonight, Natalie, who surprises you? We've got a few new faces joining, but who's standing out for you tonight?
Do you know, it's fascinating to see the Leclerc partnership, because I think this is a very, very special moment for these two. You know, who knows whether this is perhaps a sign for the future, perhaps in Formula One. These guys are going to be racing around their home circuit. They've grown up, they're Monegasque kids, they've grown up together in the truest sense of the word, and they know this circuit like the back of their hand. And I tell you something else, they will not suffer from a lockdown hair issue, because their mum is the hairdresser in Monaco.
Listen, I am sporting at the moment. Sat in the bath, my girlfriend cut the hair, watched 2 YouTube videos, now she's a pro. I'm not so sure about the back of the hair. Anyway, listen as we look at the next set of drivers. Valtteri Bottas joining.
Great to have him involved. You know, he talked about it for a while, and it's what I love is seeing the old guard come up and say, do you know what, we're going to take these young pups on. They've been racing on the sim for a long time. As we saw, the rivalry with George Russell and Alex Albon and Charles Leclerc developing beautifully. But for Valtteri to come and step in at this sort of relatively late stage in the season is great. I think he will be fascinating to watch. And Nicholas Latifi, you know, what a lineup.
Yeah, and Esteban Ocon, I believe right now, is being filmed. I mean, add more pressure to Esteban. He is being filmed currently, as you can see right there. I think that's filming for maybe Drive to Survive that's going on, I've been told. And so he's getting some laps in now. But added pressure when you know the camera's not just the webcam, but an actual team of people watching. So Aubameyang, Arsenal striker, joining, and Luis Fonsi as well. So if you like a bit of Despacito, 1 billion views, he's going to be driving tonight, and we'll see how well he does.
Just a quick word on Ocon. He's someone that I've got a lot of sympathy for, because he was itching to get back into Formula One. He finally secured the seat at Renault, and he hasn't got to go racing yet. He needs to prove himself. He wants to prove himself in Formula One, having taken that year out. But I'm delighted to see him involved tonight, because he'll have the chance to do so. Talking of Aubameyang, 6'2", he's a big guy to get into a Formula One car, but obviously immense sporting pedigree. Did a great interview with Lando Norris that they published online, where he was just basically asking Lando desperately for some tips before tonight's race. Great to see how he gets on. You know, there's been some great footballers involved so far.
Of course, Thibaut Courtois is taking part. Now, I have never been referred to this as a triple threat. However, there are 3 drivers that are competing tonight, which we are calling the triple threat. And there they are, Alex Albon, Albon, George Russell and Charles Leclerc. You just look at the finishes they've had. They've all won a virtual Grand Prix. And as Mika Häkkinen didn't want to put himself out there and say which one could possibly be a future F1 champ, but the
answer is all of them.
Yes.
I mean, they've got so much talent between the three of them. But what's really struck me about this is just how much this has meant to them. You heard the absolute elation. And George, last time out, you know, he's been used to tailing around at the back in the Williams so far in his Formula One career. To win the race meant so much. It's also been a crucial part of them keeping their eye in under lockdown, keeping practicing and keeping connected with their friends. There's George having a little practice.
Yeah, and it's been so fun, and everyone, fans of F1 and motorsport in general, have been loving the fact that they get this access to Charles Leclerc. He's streaming his drives. He's practically, I think there's going to be a 24-hour cam on Charles Leclerc. People want to see more in depth of their lives, and George Russell is one of those drivers that's really stepped up, and we feel like we know them more than we did last year.
Absolutely. You get a glimpse of their personalities, you get to see just how competitive they are, and it's great to see them all in relative, well, the same car, the same vehicle. There's parity there, but you see that the competitive juice is really flowing. And, you know, they have been really putting the hours in on their sim, so they're taking it very seriously.
Indeed. Listen, I myself have been to Monaco. Fabulous place. I'm curious to know what it's looking like right now, so we have asked Paul Di Resta to head down and see what it's like.
So I just wanted to give you a bit of an idea of what's going on down here. Obviously, Monaco was in a pretty serious lockdown, as was most of the world, to be honest. But things are starting to come out of it. Normality has resumed. We've been out of it for 2 weeks. A lot of the drivers obviously been based down here, and I've stayed down here for this whole time since returning back from Melbourne. But I just want to show you where I am. I'm standing in the pit lane of what would have been where all the action is happening. Shame not to see the garages built, but as you look down here, you can see the nice rubber marks from where people have rubbered in their pit boxes for last year, just to get that extra special launch away from these lightning quick pit stops. If I just walk over here, this is obviously where you see people just touching the barrier at the swimming pool section. It's world famous. You can see where the diving board is and the chutes, the port looking as spectacular as ever, and then obviously up to the world famous Casino Square. That's Rascast. You can see the outline of where the barriers would have been. The nightlife is pretty epic down here on the Grand Prix weekend, but I'm sure the guys more importantly would have loved racing it. You can just see it's missing that special atmosphere, but that's the pitch straight over there as well, where the cars would have lined up on Sunday at 3 o'clock to take that start 10 minutes later. The trophy would have been presented obviously to the race winner, and from there on in. But I want to hand over back to you into the virtual world. That's where the guys are getting their elbows out, they're getting competitive, and where it's all happening at the moment. Hopefully we'll see everything back on track in the live racing very soon.
Well, thanks to Paul Di Resta for that. A good track guide, but we have different conditions, slightly different. Welcome to the commentary box. I'm Alex Shakes, with me Matt Gallagher, to talk you through this should be fascinating qualifying session. It was going to be fascinating anyway, but now we've got torrential conditions, and the Monegasque drivers, Charles Leclerc, Arthur Leclerc, 1 and 2 at their home event, but this is going to be so tough, Matt.
I was about to say it'd probably throw a spanner in the works, but no, it hasn't. We've got both Leclerc's at 1 and 2, as you say, Alex Albon, then Valtteri Bottas, loving that, straight up to P4, as we ride on board with his teammate Esteban Gutierrez with the 25.2. I don't think many of these drivers will have prepared for wet weather, especially in qualifying for 1 lap overall pace, but well, it seems like the 2 Ferrari drivers doing very well. Valtteri Bottas improving to P3. I'm actually really impressed. I didn't really know where Bottas was going to end up, but 3rd wasn't on the list.
Esteban Gutierrez, the driver in the other Mercedes, over the line and into 5th position, ahead of race winner George Russell. Lando Norris up in 7th, ahead of Antonio Giovinazzi. So let's check in with Valtteri Bottas. Now, Valtteri's had this set up for a few weeks.
Practicing, hasn't he?
Practicing and practicing and practicing, and well, could it be a case that he was waiting to get himself up to speed? Now he feels he is in the top 3. Just the Leclerc brothers ahead on the circuit. Not much to split them at all at the moment. But the wet weather conditions, I mean, it's one thing to get the practice, but of course no rain in the tunnel, so they have to deal with that. And then back out into what is, it's torrential stuff out there. So easy to make a mistake, easy to hit the barriers, but easy to chuck your qualifying performance away. George Russell will want to improve from that 6th place lap at the moment, and right on cue he has done, up to the front row.
It's fantastic to have Valtteri as we're having a look at him just getting out of the way of a few drivers, and that's Arthur Leclerc. He's on his outlap, fortunately, so that McLaren did not get in the way of anything that he'll improve on. Lando Norris, there he is, P7. Great to have him here. No gremlins just yet. Fingers crossed that continues that way, and we can see Lando finally get stuck in with the rest of these F1 drivers. Also great to obviously have Esteban Ocon currently in P15. I'm sure he'll want to improve that, as he is currently 7 seconds off the pace of Charles Leclerc.
It's been a bit old school, isn't it?
Yeah, 107% rule is not in force for this qualifying session.
So, under 5 minutes to go in this qualifying session. Charles Leclerc, the driver to beat. We're looking at his younger brother, Arthur Leclerc there, the driver who had to stop his racing career for a couple of years. Then he restarted, and he's looked very, very impressive every single time we have seen him behind the wheel. And last time he was in this Ferrari, you can hear how hesitant he is on the throttle as he gets the power down. That is how wet it is. He has been in the Ferrari in a Virtual Grand Prix as he slides to the wall. And he was very impressive. 4th place finish around the streets there. Slightly different circuit, but still a park circuit at Albert Park. Charles Leclerc trying to improve his qualifying performance. It is tough out there right now, Matt.
No damage, though, fortunately for these guys. They won't be getting any sort of end plates flying off of their front wing, so they can take a few liberties on these qualifying laps, and also in the race as well. I'm sure we'll see some overtakes. Charles Leclerc currently on a 123.467, which is definitely not out of reach of Arthur Leclerc. The conditions don't seem to be improving. Nobody has risked it, as I can see, onto the intermediate tyres, and it's probably a good idea because it is chucking it down as we come out of the tunnel. And all out of shape for Arthur Leclerc, but as with the dry, a lot of guys will just put enough fuel in for one hot lap. I think in the wet, it would be wise, at least, for a bit more fuel to be in the tanks of these cars, so then Arthur Leclerc can go for another lap and maybe see some improvements in track conditions as well.
We've got Alex Albon on an outlap. Same applies to Esteban Gutierrez, to Antonio Giovinazzi, and to Lucas Salvadori, who returns to the grid after a couple of outings. And David Schumacher goes fastest of anyone by an enormous margin. Look at that lap from David Schumacher.
What
there.
A lap.
That is incredible. A 1:23.0. And the Racing Point, currently the fastest. Charles Leclerc down to P2.
We didn't see that sort of pace from David last time out, did we? Wow, provisional pole position. Oh, goodness me. Charles Leclerc, big slide there on his hot lap, and having a Toro Rosso in the way as well. So Charles Leclerc will have enough time for at least one more lap. But what a lap from David Schumacher. Does that suggest the track conditions are getting better? Or does it suggest that David Schumacher has put in some serious time?
A Schumacher in the wet?
Yeah.
Come on.
Give me chills.
We've heard that before. Fantastic lap. As the son of Ralf Schumacher has put it to the top of the timing pages. Right, we're ticking down towards the final 2 minutes. We've got a Racing Point ahead of a Ferrari, ahead of a Williams, ahead of a Ferrari. Valtteri Bottas, a very impressive 5th on debut at the moment. Esteban Ocon, the other debutant driver from the current Formula 1 field, down in 17th. Needs to improve. We go on board with Alex Albon.
Lando's just improved to P5. That's dropped Alex down to P7. Great to see Lando up there, 24.1. Still over a second away from David Schumacher's lap time. Where are all these veterans of the F1 Virtual GP? David Schumacher rocks up, P1, thank you very much indeed. Alex Albon looks like he's just shaping up now for 1, maybe 2 laps if he's got enough fuel, and I think he's nailed this. If he's got enough fuel, for 2 laps, Alex Albon will be the last man on track.
Meanwhile, his teammate has been disqualified. Kai Lenny has been disqualified for whatever reason.
Not ideal, is it, qualifying?
From this session, so all the hopes for Red Bull with Alex Albon. Back with Valtteri Bottas, who brings his immense experience to this level, and, well, you expected it. His teammate Esteban Gutierrez was talking about how great it is for him to be able to show what he's really like behind the wheel. There's no crash helmet. You can see the expressions. You can feel the concentration as he tries to improve. Last year was the first time that Valtteri Bottas stepped on a Monaco Grand Prix podium, and he's got 5 drivers ahead of him as we tick down. David Schumacher, the driver to beat, and Bottas is trying to keep it out of the barriers. Look at the wheel spin as he applies the throttle. Full wet tyres on the car, and good job too out of the final corner, the 19th and final corner. along the pit straight that isn't straight, and Valtteri Bottas improves, so he's finding time all the time, and he's up to P5 to demote Lando Norris.
Oh, it's awesome to have 8 Formula 1 drivers involved in this series, isn't it? I was just looking at the list of drivers and just pinch me. It's unbelievable to watch, and great to have Valtteri there, as you say, improving to P6. George Russell just about getting enough.
Yeah, he's timed that.
7 seconds to go, and he starts his lap. And I think, no, that's Alex Albon just behind him as well. Who can improve? Louis Delatraz. P2.
Louis Delatraz, he adores this place. In F2 last year, he was P2 on the road as George Russell drifts it round Massenet corner, and Pietro Fittipaldi in the other Haas.
22.4.
Where is he finding the lap time? 22.4. Wow, that is a lap worthy of the Fittipaldi name. Excellent stuff for him.
David Schumacher can't improve, neither can Charles Leclerc.
But can any of the usual suspects? A surprise, you have to say, up top for Pietro Fittipaldi, who's his personal best in the races has been 8th place, but he's got provisional pole at the moment. On board with George Russell, trying to do something about it. So George Russell in P5. McLaren going deep there in the background. No more time left on the clock. These are the last laps in qualifying. Nudge of the barrier, doesn't matter though, due to the damaged settings. Can Russell find his way through these final corners and haul himself up the order? He'll want the second row at the very least. David Schumacher can't respond. Charles Leclerc can't respond. The Haas drivers aren't done yet, but they have put together an amazing qualifying performance. What has George Russell been able to do? The winner last time out crosses the line and goes to the front row. Alex Albon, can he get there? No, he's going to stay in 10th position, and that will be a long race ahead with a dangerous turn 1 to be negotiated. But how about this from Pietro Fittipaldi? An astonishing lap, a 1:22.4, and the Haas driver has done the business to beat George Russell to pole.
I can't believe it. We were all talking about triple threat, and, you know, we had that on the screen, and then Pietro Fittipaldi comes in, drops a 22.4, takes pole position by almost 0.4 of a second, and George Russell, alongside at the moment, is going to be a tasty race.
Well, it's George Russell on the front row, but it's Pietro Fittipaldi who has taken pole position for the Monaco Virtual Grand Prix.
So, perfect stuff there from the quali. I was too eager to get back and talk about it. I jumped the gun a little bit.
So was I. I mean, that was astonishing. I mean, as if Monaco isn't tough enough to qualify on at the best of times. They're going to throw some rain in there as well, a bit of aquaplaning in. And it was a drying circuit. We saw conditions changing as the session went on. I thought Schumacher put in an immense performance, channeling his uncle there, who's obviously 5-time winner around the circuit. I know that he was bugged by various technical gremlins in the last couple of races, so he's been itching to get back and put in a performance. But what about Pietro Fittipaldi? Absolutely magnificent. And I know George Russell will be pleased to put it on the front row as well, because under pressure there, just before the end of the session, to get a P2 in those conditions was great. But yeah, the order's really been shaken up with the weather, hasn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, I say the weather, you know, that was a magnificent performance by all of them.
Let's get the official result on that. But George Russell, we did say he was a triple threat. He did zoom straight up to second in quali. However, Alex Albon right down there. Charles Leclerc, not too bad in 5th, but it's almost the curse of the commentator. You start talking and bigging people up, and then all of a sudden, Pietro Fittipaldi says, where's my mention? And also, David Schumacher, like you mentioned. Louis Delatraz, though, doing very well for Mercedes. And Bottas, great first showing for him. He's coming in there and getting up to grips. But with the weather, you mentioned to me while we were watching that, it can change immediately.
Oh, yes, it's like a microclimate in Monaco, and there's this sort of bowl of swirling wind and cloud that just sits over the Principality, and the wind can come in and change the conditions very quickly. You know, it can be beautifully sunny in the afternoon. I fully expect this to be a dry race, and, well, hopefully Fittipaldi, for his sake, can convert that pole into perhaps a win. I mean, what a coup that would be.
It would be indeed. Let's have a quick look at the circuit right now for you guys. And there we have it there, Monte Carlo, Monaco, 19 turns in this. You said it's not difficult enough. You throw the wet conditions in there. However, you need to be on your game from start to finish, and it's really now the mental test for these drivers.
Oh, absolutely. It's a slow, short circuit, but it's one where always delivers drama. You have the psychological challenge, as Mika Häkkinen mentioned earlier, is immense. It's about finding your groove, and you don't have much time to really do that in these sessions building up to this race. But once, kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, if you're good, you continue to be good. If you're bad, it kind of bugs you, it gets under your skin, and you worry about making the same mistakes that you have done before, because if you make the smallest mistake, you pay a big cost.
Indeed. Well, listen, guys, if you're just joining us, I can tell you now the Pirelli pole position goes to Pietro Fittipaldi. Can he hold on to it and potentially win at Monaco? What an amazing achievement that would be for him. Alex Jakes, Matt Gallagher looking after the commentary. Do you reckon he can do it?
Well, it's one thing to do it in the wet, and what a lap that was. It's another thing to do it in the dry, and this is going to be a serious test of Pietro Fittipaldi, especially with last-time race winner George Russell alongside. Matt, it's looking like a great racing prospect.
Mouth-watering indeed. A few people we didn't really expect to see as far up the field as they are. You've got Charles Leclerc, George Russell, though. P2, very good indeed from him. We should be able to see the strategy as well. There you go, as they are on the formation lap at the moment. So, yeah, I mean, this is interesting because there are so many different strategies that they could go for. We saw the F1 esports guys earlier. They pitted on lap 1 from the softs and then went the mediums the entire race. Obviously, this is different. This is a 50% race, so they'll go slightly bit longer, but it does still look like a one-stop at the moment. But probably the more aggressive strategy is go soft to medium, because obviously that's the quicker tyre compared to the hards, which go longer. But
what would you favour, Matt? Which way would you go?
Go soft medium. You might be Monaco, you might be, you know, wanting to take it a little bit tentatively, but I don't think, with no damage, these guys will be taking anything tentatively.
The grid forming up then. Here we go with the 5 red lights on in Monaco. And we're underway with Pietro Fittipaldi on the left, George Russell on the right. The lights are out and we're underway around the streets of Monte Carlo with George Russell looking like he's close to the lead. Has he managed to keep it there? Will they all manage to get through Saint-Devote unscathed just about? But there was an issue for Liuzzi in the background. He's spinning. It's frantic up the hill, but George Russell's got the lead. Past Arthur Leclerc with spinning in the middle of the Alfa Romeo. Collecting the 2 Mercedes in the mix as well there. What a nightmare that was for Antonio Giovinazzi, I think it was, who was going the wrong way, but there, confirmation out front that George Russell has taken the lead. It's Arthur Leclerc up to P2, David Schumacher in P3, and Pietro Fittipaldi. He's gone from pole to 4th.
Oh, what a shocking start. The one place you don't want to lose a position. I think Leclerc's on the back of Fittipaldi as well. But the one place you don't want to lose positions is Monaco. Track position is key. I think Valtteri Bottas was the Mercedes spinning the wrong way round after contact. I think he straightened up an Alfa Romeo, and then he was the one that was facing the wrong way. So unbelievably bad luck for Valtteri. He was now down to P19, as we can see on our screens. But George Russell flew off the line, took Pietro Fittipaldi, but Arthur Leclerc very much there with him.
So he has managed to go through. It'll be interesting to see what David Schumacher's pace is like in the dry. George Russell, unsurprisingly, with that benchmark lap time.
Quickly going to mention, sorry, Alex, that George is on the mediums, Arthur on the softs. So we should see a bit of tasty action over these next few laps where the Ferrari driver's going to be quicker.
So Schumacher in 3rd, Fittipaldi side by side with Charles Leclerc, trying to overtake it to Massenet. You don't see that very often, but I think he's just about, even though he was going sideways, pull that one off. And Louis Delatraz, who had a penalty for, I think he had a 5-place penalty on the grid, has shown terrific speed to get himself up to 6th. And there was such an impressive performance from Fittipaldi in the wet, in the dry, not quite working for him. Russell, Arthur Leclerc, David Schumacher, and then the driver you're looking at, or you were looking at on board with, Charles Leclerc ahead of Pietro Fittipaldi. This is the other Leclerc brother who is chasing George Russell for the race win.
I'm mystified over Fittipaldi's start because I was originally going to blame it on the fact he went for the medium tyres, which obviously will get him a little bit less purchase off the line, but George Russell's on exactly the same tyre compound, so just got beaten through the reaction times, and we've got a 5-second penalty for Kai Lenny towards the back of the field in P16 as George Russell sets the fastest lap of the race, and wow, even quicker than Arthur Leclerc, and he's on the medium tyres. So George Russell looking rapid around the streets of Monaco as we take a look at Louis Delatraz and Esteban Gutierrez fighting over P6, and Charles Leclerc already on the back of David Schumacher, who doesn't seem to be able to translate the pace he had in the wet to the dry.
Liuzzi and Prost with 3-second penalties for corner cutting, and that wet qualifying has led to, oh, he's going to barge his way through. Charles Leclerc trying to edge his way through. It's all a bit Schumacher and Wirtz from 1998 there. He's going to try into Portier. He's not hanging around because his brother's up the road next, and he's looking like he can pressure George Russell. Charles won't want that at all, and now he's got to try and close down the gap to the leading pair. He had to try a little bit of argy-bargy, but the Ferrari driver has made his way through to P3.
Clear road now to his brother down the road. We're riding on board with him right now. P2, not really giving George Russell too much stress. So George Russell looking very handy indeed on the medium compounded tyre. He will go ages in this race on those tyres, but the one thing that we saw before in the F1 Esports race, and we'll probably see here as well, Arthur Leclerc will have the first pit stop, and it all depends on track position and whether or not...
Esteban Gutierrez trying the old... trying the argy-bargy tactics himself there. It's going to work, and it might look like dodgems, but it looks like P5 for the Mexican driver.
Pietro's getting bullied. It's horrible to watch. Down to P6 from pole position. But as I was saying, it's all about track position for Arthur Leclerc. When he gets out, he needs clean air to be able to push on those fresh set of mediums to then try and close in that pit stop window that George Russell will have. And then we should have a pretty tasty fight where George will be on the soft tyres. Will he have track position? Well, that we'll have to wait and see. But right now, he's looking very quick indeed, pulling away from Arthur Leclerc even now, lap 4 of 39. And I've got to say it again, great to see Lando in P9 ahead of Nicholas Latifi. 2.4 seconds to Louis Delatraz, who just got a 3-second penalty, as did Lando Norris. The penalties, Alex, they're already coming in. Get your calculator out, and you're looking for your pen.
I'm looking for the pen because I think we might see a few of them in the next few laps. There you go, Thibaut Courtois currently ahead in the Alpha.
Did you bring enough ink with that?
I don't think I did. So penalties being dished out.
Oh, Charles Leclerc.
Now that's going to have a big impact, just like he got in the latter stages of the Spanish Virtual Grand Prix. That is going to bring, as you can see right now, David Schumacher back into play. That's a second penalty for Antonio Liuzzi, who is back in. Oh, that's into the wall rather heavily for Louis Delatraz. And well, they're not exactly racing traditional racing lines, I think it's fair to say.
Absolutely not. I guess with the no damage, it's very much sending it into every corner, and if you give the ball a little love tap, it's not going to affect their car. So properly giving it some of these drivers. But yeah, Charles Leclerc already getting that 3-second time penalty. Just to reiterate to viewers that maybe are new or haven't seen the strict corner cutting rules enforced after China's, quite frankly, joke of whatever they were doing before when they were creating their own lines. But
I liked it.
You liked it? No, it wasn't China they were racing around. But yes, it's strict corner cutting. Goodness me, Esteban Gutierrez. The strict corner cutting means you cannot take any liberties into pretty much any corner. The last chicane, they can bump over the curb just a little bit harder without getting penalised. But anywhere else, turn 1, Lowe's hairpin, even there you can get a corner cutting warning. So you just have to keep it within the white lines. And just don't take too many liberties, Alex, otherwise you will get slapped with a 3-second time penalty. And you can get up to 18, I think.
Yeah, we saw 18 seconds, and then it's...
Let's hope that record isn't broken.
and then there's trouble. David Schumacher trying to keep it out of the barriers. Esteban Gutierrez using the barriers to his advantage. Right now, Charles Leclerc does not have the sort of pace that he needs to try and get on terms with the top two. And Alex Albon, having passed one Haas, passed another now, past Pietro Fittipaldi, who has faded from that immense wet pole position. Congratulations to him for that. It was really superb lap, but in dry trim, not working his way.
Oh, that's a lunge.
That's a lunge and a half. And, you know, that is a fair move and an impressive one from Esteban Gutierrez, who's found his way through, and Albon's trying to go past both of them. That could end in tears, and it's ended in tears for Alexander Albon, who risked a wheel to the inside and finds himself heading back down the order. And after all of that hard work to contend for P6, he's down right now in 10th.
2 was never going to go into that corner as Esteban Gutierrez pits from using the soft tyres, so he's going to go into the mediums, is he, or the hards? I'd imagine. Oh no, he goes for the mediums. Aggressive strategy. 32 laps on those mediums. Esteban Gutierrez, I would strongly suggest you don't try and do too much sliding like you just did with Alex Albon there. But yeah, as you say, it was always destined for disaster. Fortunately, no damage, so Alex Albon can continue. P9 just behind Lando Norris and Nicholas Latifi. But yeah, I mean, they're going for it, Alex. They're not holding back.
They're not holding back, and that's not an ideal part of the racetrack to come out on. You can see that Esteban Gutierrez is behind content creator Lucas Salvadori. And he's managed to get through at Mirabeau. So Esteban Gutierrez, fresh from that podium. He's first of the Virtual Grand Prix series. Last time out in Barcelona, now managing to get some clear air there. Lando Norris has got past Louis Delatraz, both of them with 3-second penalties. George Russell is 2.8 seconds ahead of the Ferrari driver Arthur Leclerc, who is comfortably leading his teammate around here at the moment, and his brother, here's Nicholas Latifi, always taking part in these races since the very first one back in Bahrain, and sliding his way out of the Rascasse.
Get your pen out, Alex. We've got one for Alex Albon as well, so goodness me, they are racking up the penalties, but that is what the strict corner cutting rules are there to enforce. Don't be naughty, don't try and ride those curves, don't corner cut. But yeah, it seems as though George Russell right now, class of his own. 3.4 seconds to Arthur Leclerc. Charles Leclerc can do nothing about his brother in P2. David Schumacher is holding on to P4, but really doesn't have the pace that he did in the wet. And Pietro Fittipaldi right behind him at the moment. We're now looking at Alex Albon, who I think's just got through on Louis Delatraz, who seems to be ailing, because Delatraz was in P6. And around Monaco, you don't want to be losing 3 places in 1 lap.
No, confusing as well, considering the damage setting.
Yeah, maybe his tyres are gone. Maybe he's lit them up and worn them away.
They're certainly pushing out there. They really are certainly pushing, and it will be interesting to see whether George Russell can keep this pace up. Arthur Leclerc has responded. He's seen enough. He's come to the pits to try and put some pressure on the Williams driver from P2. And his brother goes ahead. He is back out. No one else going for that strategy out on this lap. He's on to the mediums as well, so we saw that from Esteban Gutierrez. He's gone the same way, and he comes out in P8, but will he stay that way? Needs to floor it to stay ahead of the Haas, but the Haas has got better momentum. Might be time to invite him to inspect that Armco barrier. They're side by side up the hill to Massenet, and he just about gets ahead of the Haas driver. That is P8 with the pit stop. And look at that for George Russell, a 10-second lead.
Comfortable. George Russell's been putting some hours in, it seems, because he is rapid. 10 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc, as you say. It was crucial that Arthur Leclerc comes out in some clean air, which he does for now, but he has fresh rubber, so he is going to catch up to Alex Albon in no time, who is currently stuck behind Nicholas Latifi. So right now, Arthur Leclerc will be praying that these guys come into the pits, but they won't be. They're all on medium tyres. So this is playing into this will play into George Russell's hands completely, because Arthur Leclerc will just get stuck behind these guys unless we see some very interesting moves, which we've already seen. It's lap 10 and we've seen a handful of them already. And I don't think it's over just yet as Charles Leclerc pits.
So he's getting rid of the soft tyres as well, and will return. So different strategies playing out here. And now George Russell still yet to feel the need to come into the pits. David Schumacher up to P2, Pietro Fittipaldi up to P3. Lando Norris now in P4 as here comes Charles Leclerc, and that's Esteban Gutierrez getting the jump. So Gutierrez, who was throwing some shapes to try and get past drivers earlier on. Another 3-second time penalty for Nico Prost.
And Fittipaldi as well.
And Fittipaldi as well. So it's not a case of if you're going to get a penalty, it's how many. But that's basically what happened last time. So I'm not sure why we're that surprised. Drivers using the barriers as well, as we check in with Arthur Leclerc, about to go wheel to wheel with Alex Albon. This is for P6 at the moment. He's got to make these moves quickly. Otherwise, George Russell is in a brilliant position to win 2 in a row. But we've seen plenty of penalties already, and we've learned in the last couple of races not to count anything out until the last lap. Liuzzi is collecting a fair few as well, as he is down there for AlphaTauri in 17th position. And there's a penalty for Arsenal striker Aubameyang, who is in 16th, but ahead of Liuzzi. So, Pietro Fittipaldi closing in. Oh, and getting close to being spun around there. Lando Norris now in the mix. We've been waiting for this. Here he is. In the Papaya McLaren, chasing the Haas. And Schumacher seems to be struggling with his tyres at this stage. And it is a 3-car battle for P2.
Yeah, he just doesn't have the pace, David Schumacher, because the mediums, oh, that is rude. That is very rude. That's something I had noticed, was just small little love taps, but that one was no love.
Norris is going to get in there as well. So poor old David Schumacher, nothing he could do about that. Barged out of the way. Pietro Fittipaldi up to second place. Norris now up to third. Both of them need to make the pit stop. Pit stops that Leclerc, Gutierrez and Charles Leclerc have made. Arthur Leclerc is leading that gaggle of drivers at the moment as Pietro Fittipaldi clobbers the wall to back but keeps it facing in the right direction. That's the one thing you need to avoid. It's the spin that we saw for Alex Albon.
Absolutely. So we've had 5 people stopped so far. David Schumacher's made a big error because I don't think he's in the pits, and he's now dropped to P7. Latifi, Albon and Leclerc all through.
Let's hear from our race leader.
To be honest, I think we should go for plan B right now.
We'll see. We got a big gap.
Very talkative. so plan B, whatever that is, clearly not. Well, what would plan B be?
Stay out there for as long as possible, I think, is what George Russell is thinking.
Yeah, because surely he's in the pound seats. Why is plan A? Surely plan A is, we just took the lead from the start, let's go with the strategy. But clearly there's a little bit of divisiveness over which strategy they should go for. But right now, George Russell, I think pretty much 20 different strategies he's going to win this race. So just needs to keep it out of the walls. As Lando Norris, great to see him up in P3 at the moment, right behind Pietro Fittipaldi.
What is going on with Lando Norris's crash helmet?
Is that a pumpkin? That is, well, maybe this is one helmet he wanted to run in Formula 1 and was told no because there's a stalk coming out of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the stalk, but it looks good. It looks good in P3. Okay, we've got a Williams driver in the lead in George Russell, and I believe we can speak to another one, a driver who won here back in 2003. I believe we can speak to Juan Pablo Montoya, who joins us now for the Virtual Grand Prix. Juan Pablo, how are you?
Yeah, good, guys. How you guys doing?
Doing very well, and brilliant to have you sort of joining us in the commentary box for this. So you know what it's like to win in a Williams around here back in 2003. What are your memories from that day?
It was very special. You know, I grew up being such a Senna fan that, you know, he won so many times in Monaco that actually getting to win there was really, really special. That was, you know, always when I got my first win was nice, but getting that win meant a lot. I remember I screamed on the radio really, really loud, and then I thought I turned it off and I screamed even louder, and the radio was still on.
Wonderful, wonderful day, and great to hear your thoughts on it. You've been sim racing yourself. You won, according to my research here, Miami's fastest gamer back in February. Are you glad that sim racing is in the spotlight in the way it is right now?
Oh, I love it. I think it's such a cool event. You know, we're doing a lot of races. There's a race we're doing, it's called the Legends, with people from the race, from We Are the Race is called, and we've been having such a blast. You know, Fernando beat us yesterday pretty bad at Indy. I got shunted in both races, but it's such a good fun. You know, we're racing, it's Fernando, Button, Emerson, Andretti, I mean, you name it, a bunch of guys from all over, a lot of the guys from the UK, like Jason Plato's here, Andy Prelux. It's just such a cool event, and we're so freaking competitive. It's unbelievable.
Juan Pablo, we're seeing lots of action on the screen right now, side by side, wheel banging everything. When can we expect to see you in the simulator chucking an F1 car around one of these circuits?
I had a chance actually to do this race, but I just couldn't get it to put it all together. It would have been fun. You know what's the hard thing is every game is completely different. Every platform you drive, it behaves different. So when you haven't driven a platform, it makes it really, really difficult. It just takes time.
And we're seeing plenty of action on track with Lando Norris racing Arthur Leclerc and Alex Albon. Do you think George Russell's going to emulate you in 2003 and hang on for victory here, Juan Pablo?
Oh, I hope so. You know, Williams need all the good luck and all the good things to go their way, so it'd be really cool to see.
Can't believe what I'm watching on the screen right now. It's amazing.
Well, incredible overtaking on the track, and incredible for Juan Pablo to join us in the commentary box. Thank you so much for giving us your input, and I hope you join us for one of the Virtual Grand Prix in the next few weeks.
All right, guys. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you to Juan Pablo Montoya. Brilliant to get his thoughts, Matt. Brilliant to get his thoughts whilst it was absolute chaos on track.
I was like, I'm really enjoying talking to Juan Pablo, but I'm like, oh, they're going 3 wide into corners. It's unbelievable to watch. Lando Norris, Arthur Leclerc, Esteban Gutierrez, Alex Albon and Charles Leclerc in P7. This is monumental racing. Turn the damage off. They don't care. They'll just send it into every corner.
They certainly will, and this is phenomenal, as you can see right now. Norris in P3, Leclerc in P4, Gutierrez is there. Charles Leclerc has got past Alex Albon momentarily. We're on board with the Mexican driver, Esteban Gutierrez, as Arthur Leclerc losing time right now behind Norris, but Norris has waited for his opportunity. The driver that was simming for so long, it's great to see him in the top 3 of a virtual Grand Prix, and he's making that McLaren as wide as possible. And that is a ridiculous place to put your car. You'd never be able to do that in real life. Dodgem's time now. No. He's hit the Ferrari, he's hit the McLaren, and oh my goodness me. If you're wondering how long this is going to go on for, it could be a while yet. Amazing racing here, but it's Norris still hanging on to 3rd place.
But the thing is, Arthur Leclerc, it's something I mentioned at the start of the race, he didn't want to come out in this. He didn't want to be battling Lando Norris as Esteban now sends it into...
Oh, it's going to cost him.
Arthur Leclerc gets 3 seconds. I think Esteban did as well. And this is just giving George Russell, here you go, 1st place.
George Russell's going to be thinking, where are you all?
He's thinking this is the boring race. Far from it.
So Lando Norris still in P3, Arthur Leclerc now in P4, Charles Leclerc up to 5th place, Alex Albon in 6th, and Esteban Gutierrez, well, he sent one to the inside of the Nouvelle Chicane, didn't pay off, and he is currently ahead of Nicholas Latifi. Meanwhile, serenely sailing by our race leader, and I believe we can hear him chatting to his engineer once again.
Lap times are pretty slow, though, don't you think?
No worries. Believe me, Ferrari is struggling now with the traffic. Just try to kick the tires and don't get any penalties.
Basically, stay cool. Don't make any mistakes. It's looking rather good, Mr. Russell.
I love how he thinks that he's doing slow lap times. Try having 4 cars as moving chicanes. That's what Arthur Leclerc is having to deal with people in front and behind him.
Also, I love the fact that we were like, look at this, look at this, look at this. And it's like, meanwhile, with George Russell.
Yeah, he can't see anybody. He's just driving a race of his own. And it's, well, he'll watch this back and he won't believe what's going on behind him. But that, you know, that's props to his strategy. P2, he goes for the medium tyres, so he doesn't have to pit, doesn't get stuck into all of this chaos. And oh, there's even more chaos.
Well, off to the Schumacher barrier at the Rascasse there for Alex Albon. And meanwhile, Esteban Gutierrez now up to P6. 2 Leclercs and a Norris, and look at that! Round he goes. So Arthur Leclerc, contact with Lando Norris, and Charles Leclerc now up to P3. Gutierrez up to P4. And it is a virtual Grand Prix around Monaco and not Dodgems at a fairground.
Well, we might
honestly.
We might have heard from George Russell, but I don't think we're going to be able to transmit what Arthur Leclerc just said about Lando Norris. But Lando's actually had an incident himself, as he's now gone behind, unless he gave the position to Arthur Leclerc. I think that may be more the case there. Maybe felt a little bit bad for that one as he went into Sandoval at about 150 miles an hour.
Well, it's a great battle for the podium, but right now,
yeah, who is going to get... I don't know. There's so many penalties. George Russell's going to win by 3 laps at this rate.
Yeah, I've basically written everyone's name down for the penalty count. So let's see who does it.
There you go.
There's Lando. There we are, ×2.
He gave us a prime example of what not to do through that chicane, as he took far too many liberties.
The pumpkin continues.
Yeah, maybe just losing a little bit of his concentration now as he's sliding into every wall possible.
Terrific stuff. George Russell leading imperiously at the moment. Nicholas Latifi's come into the pits. He's one of multiple drivers who's got a penalty, but he comes in to stop. And we're back with Alex Albon, who had a spin earlier on. But since then, oh, he's going to have another one if he's not careful. Very nearly losing the rear of the car, but he kept it out of the barriers. And he's got Arthur Leclerc, who will be desperate to make up for that issue.
That's the thing, though, we say about... Well, these mediums should have gone much further than this without any sort of struggles. for Alex Albon, but we just saw him sliding, and that's because he's been going wheel to wheel with drivers for 10 laps and sliding and crashing and banging into walls, and that affects the tyre wear. So, you know, Codemasters have implemented that so that it's not like you can just drive however you want just because the damage is off. You have that tyre wear, and you have to treat your tyres kindly. As we take a look at Valtteri Bottas, who did fall down to P19 at the start of the race, now right behind David Schumacher, P11 now. What a travesty of a race for David Schumacher after such a brilliant qualifying. I don't know, well, we obviously haven't been riding on board with him for the entire race.
Here's Valtteri Bottas, who got caught up with the spinning Alfa Romeo at the very start of the Grand Prix, and he's been having to work his way back ever since, which is a shame because we saw good pace from him in qualifying, and we can see his teammate up in 4th position now. Let's check in with Valtteri with... well, I think he would probably wear the same expression if he was in the lead of the race. Absolute bolted-on concentration for him as he makes his way through to start yet another lap of this iconic 2.0-mile circuit. And, well, right now, he can just pick off the cars in front. The next one is David Schumacher as he gets used to this F1 2019 game.
So pit stops are around 21, 22 seconds as my estimate. Sir George Russell has that and some in hand, and he'll be going on the faster tyre. Sir George Russell really does have this in the bag, hence why his strategy engineer was saying, look, just chill. Just.
Yeah, I think only the Norfolk internet can deny George Russell at this stage, so he will keep his fingers crossed on that.
I love how every time we cut to that corner, someone gets a penalty, just to show what the strict corner cutting is. Yep, so here we go. Louis Delatraz has a 3-second time penalty. Running in P7, 1.7 seconds ahead of Luca Salvadori. But to be fair, 3-second time penalty, it may not even affect his position. He may even improve his position.
So Louis Delatraz with another lap under his belt. He's been successful around this circuit before, been on the podium before, and looked like he had enough pace. Let's check in with Luis Fonsi. And what's his famous hit, Matt?
Despacito.
Nice.
There you go.
Are you gonna sing any more?
No, I don't know the lyrics. No one does.
Well, there we go. He is in 19th position, and I think very much enjoying himself down there. He might be last, but he's taking it nice and steady. He's taking it nice and easy, but it's great to have him with us. And that song has a ludicrous amount of views on YouTube.
1 billion, isn't it?
I think it's 7. It's very nearly 7 billion.
7 billion?
Yeah.
We're running out of people.
I mean, if you haven't seen the video, your slot's next Tuesday. OK, good to see him. Back to, well, let's have a little look. We're still on board with Luis Fonsi, who is chasing down. Let's go to Arthur Leclerc, and he is all over the back of Alexander Albon in the Red Bull. Eventful race for both of these. The Ferrari has been hit by Lando Norris. The Red Bull has spun already, and I don't think there'll be any messing around now. Will he send one immediately? I think he will try, but there's no way through for the time being. Lando Norris has the fastest lap of the race and has made his stop. He's in 9th position. George Russell, race leader, still yet to stop. Same applies for Pietro Fittipaldi. So he's going to tumble down the order when he comes in, but George Russell with more than enough time, as long as he doesn't get a gaggle of penalties. Kai Lenny being lapped there. So he's got the ghost car. Drive it down in 18th position. So now back to this battle between Alex Albon and Arthur Leclerc, the Monegasque driver who grew up very close to Saint-Devote around this circuit.
Esteban Gutierrez pits again.
That is interesting. So has he gone through the tyres as they both go past Liuzzi? And they've calmed down for a couple of minutes.
No, I can actually breathe. It's really strange. But Arthur Leclerc, oh my goodness me, that's a bit of ghosting there, which is fortunate for Alex Albon.
Very fortunate for Alex Albon.
Ended terribly. I was just trying to work it out with all the stops that have gone on. So Alex Albon hasn't pitted yet.
Yeah.
So that's not ideal that he's been fighting for the last 20 laps, because he's been losing a lot of time doing that, as Arthur Leclerc is inside Alex Albon at the moment, which is not something I ever thought I would say. And that is Antonio Giovinazzi, I think, a lap down as he gets out of the way. But yeah, very, very strange. I'm just trying to work out who is where with all the stops, because some people haven't stopped, some people have 2 stopped. The strategists are all over the place. They didn't look at the tyre graphic, did they, at the start?
Well, that's why we provide the tyre graphic. It's there as a handy
reference. Why are they not reading it?
Well, talking of strategy, let's check in driver, engineer. This is your race leader speaking to his engineer. This is George Russell once again.
What about boxing to the soft at the end?
That's the plan. That's the plan. Lap 27.
Not onto the hard?
No. Let's go with the softs.
I'm intrigued to think why George would want to go onto the hards after doing 24 laps on the mediums.
Yeah, it suggests that it's perhaps not as easy as it has appeared for the British driver.
Maybe he sees the gap, 33 seconds, and he thinks, I could put wets on and probably still win.
Valtteri Bottas coming into the pits. And the Mercedes driver making his Virtual Grand Prix debut.
Another 2-stop.
So interesting to see them go that way. We have seen drivers really struggling with the tyres. Lando Norris trying to make a move now on Nicholas Latifi, who had a very difficult Monaco weekend 1 year ago in Formula 2. But is running consistently once again. Latifi, whose personal best was 5th place, which he scored last time out. He's second to Barcelona, Catalonia, trying to keep Norris behind. It's been great to see Lando feature all the way through today. And he will be looking to send another daft move to the inside if he can.
I can't take him seriously with that helmet. I honestly can't. It's great, as you say, it's great to have him on in the show, and you can see that he has got the pace right behind Nicholas Latifi. I was just having a look. Shout out to Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Oh no, we've got Kai Lenny as well on the screen. Really working the wheel, it has to be said, around this Monaco circuit. Currently running in P18, 28 seconds behind Liuzzi. I think he'll take that. If he's not a Formula 1 racer and he's just got this sim and Monaco, it's not the best track to choose, is it, for your debut?
It's a really tough track to make your debut, and the big wave surfer is over the line once again, and he's not last. He's not last.
No, he's not.
So there you go. That's what you want to avoid. He's managed to avoid it. It's great that he's with us in the Virtual Grand Prix. And, well, he needs... I don't think he's going to be able to close that gap down to Antonio Liuzzi, who is the next driver up the road. Antonio Liuzzi right now, with work to do, not to finish behind Arsenal's lead striker. So
yeah, shout out to Aubameyang. I think he'll take that if he beats Liuzzi, but Liuzzi has caught 4 seconds since I last looked. So that fight may not be over. But I think the fight, unless in the next 13 laps something drastically changes, Russell and Leclerc, I don't think those two are going to come to blows. If Russell goes on the hards, that could throw a little spanner in the works, because I don't think they're particularly quick as a tyre. And we have to then tot up all the penalties as well. I think Leclerc has a penalty, Pietro Fittipaldi has a penalty, Arthur Leclerc definitely has a penalty. Albon, good. I think they all have penalties, so it might actually work out just fine.
It might be, as you're looking at it at the moment. There we go. We know that Lando Norris has 2 penalties, so he'll be going back 6 seconds. And there's Alex Albon adding another one.
There's the pen.
Right, you heard in the show earlier on us going absolutely wild about the penalty for Charles Leclerc. Now we're like, yep, tick, there we go, penalty. Bit of contact there.
Valtteri Bottas, fastest lap of the race. Lovely.
He's made the stop on the fresh tyres. Norris just ramming Latifi, but didn't work for him. He's still a second behind. And George Russell, 32 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc. Not what I expected at all.
No, really not, especially with Russell and Leclerc, they have been so close in pace over the last virtual GPs. Alex Albon as well, but George Russell.
Albon's in the pits.
Albon's in the pits, yeah, because he hasn't pitted yet, so he'll be going onto the soft compounded tyres, so he'll be very, very quick. I imagine he may set the fastest lap of the race, depends if he gets some clean air. There's Valtteri Bottas in our bottom left side of the screen, currently running in P13, 2 stops, 10 seconds to Thibaut Courtois. But the thing is, I think he has to unlap himself to get there, or maybe that's lapping. There's so many people on different laps at the moment. I'm losing count. But there is an Alfa Romeo right in front of him. Oh no, it's Thibaut Courtois, sorry. And then there's 11 seconds to David Schumacher. So that's for 12th position as Aubameyang gets a 3-second penalty, which will put him behind Liuzzi. Well, no, 3.018 it says right now. There you go. Now we'll put it behind Liuzzi.
Oh, that's a brave one to the inside of Thibaut Courtois, and Valtteri Bottas makes that work.
And gets a penalty for it.
Gets a penalty for having made the move. Sensing a theme developing here. As the street lights come on. Different time of day for this Monaco race.
Oh, Fittipaldi's come into the pits and got a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane, which is a new variation of what we've seen. So he's coming to the pits and serving that 5 seconds now, I believe. It looks like they're not coming to work yet. Now they've got to work. They're putting on the softs, that looks like. And, well, he might come out just behind Delatraz, potentially. Yeah, Delatraz goes through, as does Albon, I imagine. So maybe around P9.
It's George Russell leading, yet to stop, with a 32-second advantage ahead of Charles Leclerc, who's ahead of his brother. Then Esteban Gutierrez with 2 stops, not too far away from the second Ferrari driver. Lando Norris currently occupying 5th place, but with just the 1 stop. Here's George Russell into the pit lane. We've heard him super calm on the radio to his engineer, and he will easily exit. No speeding in the pit lane for him. No dramas really for him. Took the lead in the opening meters of the race, and since then everyone else has been in the barrier or spinning or crashing into each other, or a variation, getting a penalty. But for George Russell, it has been smooth sailing. A 14-second lead, having made his stop. And I was going to say, this is F2-like stuff from Russell, but he had a torrid time when he raced here in F2, so scrap that. The champion from a couple of years ago. Okay, everyone into the pits. Lando Norris, Nicholas Latifi, in they come. So a race between crews. Louis Delatraz on the 1 stop at the moment, leading Alexander Albon, but by barely anything, 1/10 of a second. So that'll be an interesting battle to check in with at the moment. We're watching the pit stops as Norris has managed to get ahead. And Norris in 8th ahead of Latifi in
David
9th.
Schumacher, can he get through on Lando Norris? No, he can't, but he can get ahead of Latifi.
There we go, good move for David Schumacher with the 1 stop. And so Latifi will be frustrated with that one, trying to make the move immediately. Oh, you can have a big moment there, and he knew about it, had to back off.
So Latifi is getting held up. He was fighting Lando Norris, and I think that Latifi has less penalties than Norris right now. So Latifi gets through, as you can see on your timing screens, and Schumacher comes back at him as we take a look at Esteban Gutierrez all over the back of Arthur Leclerc. He's had 2 stops as Gutierrez. He's going to be flying on these mediums round the outside of turn 1.
Make it work. Use a little bit of Armco barrier, but he did, you know, all the way around the outside and past the Ferrari.
Now it's game on. It's game on for Charles Leclerc, because I think Charles Leclerc, well, he definitely has 3 seconds. What does your paper say, Alex? Does it say any more than 3 for Gutierrez?
It's just a series of names written over other names. I'm not sure we've done this the best way.
OK, but Esteban Gutierrez has got 9 laps to catch. Charles Leclerc's 8 seconds down the road. Perfectly doable. He's on fresh tyres. Let's see if the Mercedes can catch the Ferrari.
He's been super aggressive today, and entertainingly so. Talking of super aggressive, the 2 Hasses are going wheel to wheel. We've seen this in real life. We're seeing it at Virtual Grand Prix, and it's Pietro Fittipaldi getting past Louis Delatraz and doing it fairly cleanly as well, you have to say, on that soft rubber.
Very nice move. So the one rule that has been sort of followed is not hitting your teammate, apparently, because we haven't really seen too many teammate clashes, but everybody else has been crashing into each other. Pietro Fittipaldi looks like he's on much fresher tyres than his teammate Louis, as we now take a look at Charles Leclerc, 16.6 seconds behind George Russell. I think it's fair to say, unless something absolutely miraculous happens, that battle is done. But Esteban Gutierrez continues to take some time out of the Ferrari driver, and Arthur Leclerc falling off the back of the Mercedes. Alex Albon now 15 seconds back from the Ferrari. It looks like the main battle, the main thing to keep an eye on, is Esteban catching Charles, as Lando gets another 3-second penalty.
So he's up to 3 at least at this point. As we see once again the ghosting going on. That is on board with Charles Leclerc. And, well, he did not have the opportunity. That wet qualifying really mixed the grid up, and it led to a rather spicy opening lap of the race. George Russell was well clear of all of that mess, and he stayed clear ever since. On lap 32 of 39, 18 seconds in the lead. Hasn't seemed to struggle with tyre wear in the way that others have. Esteban Gutierrez right now on for a super fighting podium. But penalty hanging over everyone, given the volume that we've seen today. So the Mexican driver just 6 seconds away now from Charles Leclerc, trying to take his best ever finish in a virtual Grand Prix. His personal best is 3rd. George Russell looking to make it 2 virtual Grand Prix wins in a row. And cold as you like right now at the bottom of your screen.
Luxury, isn't it? Just sat there chilling, 20 seconds in the lead. I don't think he would have expected that coming into this Grand Prix. But whoever chose, whether it was George, whether it was his team at Williams, the strategy engineer that we've been hearing throughout the race, whoever it was that chose to go on those mediums, they definitely deserve a beer, because that was a miraculous choice to go on there, because it just kept George Russell completely out of trouble. He hasn't probably seen a car, unless it's a ghosting one, of which, if you're wondering what the ghosting cars are, they're lapped cars. So George Russell doesn't have to deal with actually getting round the back markers. He can just simply drive through them. So much easier, and something I'm sure the F1 real-life racers, when they're racing, would wish for that party trick. But unfortunately, it's just in the virtual world. But George Russell, yeah, whoever chose the mediums, pat on the back to you, because it has secured a victory. Well, here we go. He's going to disconnect now, isn't he? But for now, lap 33, leading
Secured the lead. Secured the lead. And we'll stick with that. Esteban Gutierrez has been into every barrier more than once, but it's working for him in P3.
3 seconds.
And he is scythed into the advantage of Charles Leclerc, who is going to have to throw some defensive moves in order to keep the Mexican driver behind Aubameyang with another penalty. As Gutierrez makes his way through, so he's looking on for consecutive podiums and stay away from the penalties that the McLaren driver just got. And Charles Leclerc does have that penalty still to come. Arthur Leclerc. That's the thing when you have 2 surnames in the race. George Russell, how Lewis Hamilton-like is that? Dominating, and then just plonks on a fastest lap of the race. Enjoy that. You enjoy that. There's the fastest lap.
That's one way to send a message to the rest of the guys. Look, I've got so much rubber in my tyres, and I am so far down the road. Just take a look at this and take notes. It's been a scintillating drive, completely and utterly faultless from George Russell, even though he felt like he was going slowly. He was like, oh, these lap times are quite slow. Oh no, George, not slow at all.
He's the fastest car on track one point of last year's Monaco Grand Prix, wasn't he?
And he's imitating this right now.
So there we are, gave us a little preview when Hamilton was leading a train of cars and trying to make those tyres last to the end. No such problems for George Russell, who has been linked, a few rumours linking him with that second Mercedes seat. Well, right now he's doing the business for Williams. They will want to keep hold of him. They will want this season to start, as Russell has adapted brilliantly to this F1 2019 game. And he was 3rd on debut in Australia, then a 4th place in China after a grid penalty, 2nd in Brazil, but not really part of that battle between, what was the spin there?
That was Aubameyang, I think.
Yeah. Aubameyang losing it. Russell wasn't really part of the battle between Charles Leclerc and Alex Albon in Brazil, but he was part of the battle for the lead in Spain. And there's been no need to battle today. Took the lead at turn 1 and stayed there. So Lucas Salvadori ahead, trying to get ahead of David Schumacher. David Schumacher there at the moment. Soft tyres, though, for Lucas Salvadori, so he will have plenty of opportunities. David Schumacher will be trying to hang on to his racing point at the moment. You can see the different compounds as we say good night to Tony Oliuzzi, who's been disqualified. Oh, we've reached the limit of penalties.
We finally got there. Oliuzzi was the first one.
It's a fair few.
Yeah, if you've been writing all of those down, you definitely would have run out of pen ink.
Yeah, I've only got a few pages in front of me.
I love the variety of strategies we just saw on the screen as well. We've got softs, we've got mediums, we've got hards. There's so many different strategies, so many different tyre lives going on as well. Like you've got 5 laps soft tyres for George Russell, then you've got 15 lap hards for guys towards the back of the field.
And you've got a battle for P2. This is the fight. Second place. It all settled down for a moment there, and then it's come alive again. We've got a battle between Salvadori and Schumacher. We've got a battle between Delatraz and Norris. We've got Charles Leclerc tapping the barriers at back. That's going to give incentive to Esteban Gutierrez trying to close in. And will he try and go around the outside at the Rascas? He's not going to be able to do that. He wants that inside line into Saint-Devote. That's what he's looking for. Through Anthony Nogue, the corner named for the founder of the race, the first edition running in 1929. Now in 2020, who's going to blink first into this corner? Gutierrez knows he has to get out of it and does so.
You're always going to be shown the door, aren't you? Especially when there's no damage and it's Charles Leclerc driving as well, because we've seen some interesting driving. Oh, goodness me, that was very close for Esteban Gutierrez. But yeah, this could get a little bit dirty.
Oh, it looks like it's getting very, very close to contact time. With the old tyres, you can see two-stop strategy for Gutierrez, just the one for the driver in second place. This gap was 6 seconds. It's come down lap after lap after lap to basically nothing. This is going to be a huge opportunity. Leclerc will know he will have to go super defensive. Moves early. Can he pick his breaking point? He can. Gutierrez will have to wait. For a driver that grew up on these streets, he knows them better than anyone else out there. And he's going to hope to prove that to us in the final couple of laps.
You can see his tyres are absolutely gone. 26 laps on those mediums compared to 13. Literally half for Esteban Gutierrez. And, well, this is going to be a very long 3 laps for Charles Leclerc. Esteban Gutierrez not close enough, though, as we go towards Saint-Devote. And they're just going to have to follow for another lap. Can he get any sort of purchase into the tunnel? That's another really good overtaking opportunity. Or just send it in any of the corners. We've seen some outrageous moves in this race, and I think we're not at the end of those either.
Yeah, Alex Albon isn't too far away from Arthur Leclerc either. So both of the Leclerc brothers coming under pressure on home soil. Nicholas Latifi close to Louis Delatraz as well. Most of the field have a penalty. That will sort itself out as they come across the line. Now, what sort of exit? On track at least. There's Louis Delatraz with another one, right on cue. So that helps out Nicholas Latifi, but I think he had one as well. He did. He sent him into the wall. Round goes Charles Leclerc. Esteban Gutierrez up to second position. And Leclerc just about gathers it together, but he's lost a big chunk of time there. The damage off, so the race not ended. But it's George Russell leading now from Esteban Gutierrez. Charles Leclerc lucky that he didn't lose more time after being sent round into the Armco. And meanwhile, this is the battle for 4th position. Arthur Leclerc trying to keep Alex Albon behind. Albon's going to try and go around the outside. We already know that one doesn't work, but he's trying to get his rival off the racing line. You can see all the wheels spin for the Ferrari ahead there, all over the road. Now with DRS, can Alex Albon find the inside line and find his way to 3rd position? No, he's going to be shown the Armco barrier. Can he make it work around the outside there? This would be extraordinary stuff. We've seen it from Gutierrez, and now we've seen it from Alex Albon, who's close to spinning in Massenet. They bang wheels. Leclerc into the Armco. Still they go side by side, basically through the opening sector of the lap. Nothing to separate these two. Red Bull versus Ferrari down the hill to the slowest corner on the championship. Wait for it.
They're still side by side. I can't believe what I'm watching.
And this time, somehow, Albon just about gets ahead on the softer tyres around the outside at Saint-Devote, and then grit your teeth and wait for it. By the time he got to Portier, he was finally ahead and up to P4.
Amazing entertainment. Fortunately, this time, no disrespect to Juan Pablo, but we could actually commentate on it because I think they went side by side last time when we were speaking to Juan Pablo. But
I'd rather chat to Juan Pablo.
Yeah, I know, it was great.
This lot crash into each other every week. How often do you get to speak to one of the most entertaining drivers of recent years?
I'd love to see him on the grid, to be honest, at some point. That would be pretty feisty, wouldn't it? Here we go, George Russell.
George Russell on the last lap. And he's got the Haas in front. Aubameyang's got another penalty, but he's not going to get disqualified as long as he takes it easy. And George Russell just has a final few corners to go through the swimming pool. That's the entry, that's the exit. Tight to the walls all the way round. And we have seen some fantastic battles for the lead in these Virtual Grand Prix. This has not been one of them. George Russell dominates on the streets of Monte Carlo to win the Virtual Grand Prix of Monaco. And look at the margin he had across the line by nearly 40 seconds. It's his 2nd Virtual Grand Prix win in a row. Extraordinary performance, by far the class of the field. And here comes, a while back, Esteban Gutierrez on for his best result in a Virtual Grand Prix, on the podium last time, and Gutierrez will take that personal best. He will scrub out 3rd, he will write 2nd. He said he's been enjoying his sim racing so much, and you can see why. Second place for the Mexican driver across the line. Everyone else below Nicholas Latifi has finished their race, but what can you say about that dominant performance for George Russell, who's taken 2 in a row?
Look at his face, so happy. This is what it means to him. 2 in a row, as you say, dominated it completely and utterly. No one was near him. His pace was great. His consistency was just completely flawless. And 39 seconds ahead. That's not something that we've seen in these virtual GPs, and it's what a race for George.
Yeah, amazing stuff. Took the lead in the opening few meters and never lost it afterwards. George Russell is the winner.
Fantastic stuff from Matt Gallagher and Alex Jakes there. Brilliant to see. I wondered what story it could be told tonight, and I tell you what, George Russell has deservedly, won that race by such a massive margin as well. Plaudits to him.
Absolutely. A great start from him, and he wasn't troubled from there. An assured, calm performance. Now, I know that it's only virtual racing, but this is a timely reminder to the management that this guy is bursting with talent. When there's no other racing going on, this is all that you need to do, isn't it?
Yeah, look at that. Feet up, just relaxing, straight on. I don't know what social media George will be on now, just celebrating via Twitter,
Hardly
Instagram.
broken a sweat, has he?
But it was such a good race from him, and I think you make that very good point, that yes, we are watching virtual racing. Yes, people are saying the damage is on. We wanted to enjoy the race, and I think we definitely got that. But you're right to say that George Russell is just sending out the reminder, I'm winning, and don't forget about me.
Yeah, well, he hasn't had the opportunity to do that in the Williams, but the rumours within the team is that he's incredibly hard-working. He gets his head down, he never complains, he just plies his trade, albeit at the back of the grid, and this gives him the opportunity to show us all what he's made of. I tell you what, though, who says you can't overtake in Monaco?
Yeah, there was a lot of wheel banging.
Great, wasn't it?
I've got to say, incredible race. However, at lap 1, there was an Alfa Romeo spinning out, which was very costly to Valtteri Bottas, who I believe is joining us right now. Valtteri, are you there? Listen, how did you find that first experience going into the F1 Virtual Grand Prix?
Well, it was pretty interesting qualifying because I've never been in the wet before, so that was a new experience. But considering that was pretty good. And in the race, yeah, on the first lap, there was this big crash, and I got kind of wiped out. So, yeah.
Still tucked inside the points, Valtteri, on your first outing. Can we see you coming back for more?
We'll see. I've been keeping pretty busy and haven't been driving that much this game, but never say never. Some parts I really.
I actually think as the lack of real racing continues, we're going to see more and more of the older drivers thinking, you know what, I might just turn my hand to this. Perhaps you can get Lewis involved as well.
I'm not sure he's going to be up to it. You can ask him.
I've got to ask about your teammate Esteban Gutierrez. He was very aggressive with his driving, but obviously finishing second in the end. How much work and time went into preparing for Monaco together?
Well, I think there was many drivers that prepared a bit more than I did, but there was some team practice sessions that I attended. Just in the last minute, I got this new rig because I came to Monaco a couple of days ago and only got this new system to work today. So all the practice some of it was a bit wasted because it was all new systems and feeling in the game. But yeah, now I have time to get used to it.
And how are you, Valtteri? Because I know lockdown has eased somewhat in Monaco. Are you starting to get back to normal?
Yeah, it's pretty good here. Yeah, can't complain. Can do lots of things outdoors. Obviously, life, like in any place, is still not quite normal, but it's good enough and enjoying life, but also keen to get in the.
Indeed. Well, listen, Valtteri Bottas, great to have you as part of the F1 Virtual Grand Prix. I know your competitiveness means you might be back to better the race today. So, listen, we look forward to it. Enjoy the rest of your evening. So there you go, Valtteri Bottas. You could sense that he would have liked to have done better. That competitive nature's coming out.
Of course, but, you know, Monaco is always full of drama, and he felt the brute force of that today. But, you know, it delivered. There was chaos. It was littered with penalties, which you kind of come to expect, that kind of reckless abandon that some of them were racing with. But, you know, it was great. Made for a fascinating race.
Yeah.
Edge of your seat stuff.
And with the damage off, the sort of barrier-to-barrier bumps that were going on from Lando Norris, I'm hoping when he comes back, he's not learning some bad habits.
Yeah, but do you know what? Great to see him see the checkered flag, because he's had so many technical gremlins to this point. It's just good to see Lando in the race for its entirety.
Yeah, now we knew that Monaco was going to be chaos. It's about trying to keep a clean race. Who impressed you today in terms of standing out? And we know how good Russell was, but in terms of Leclerc finishing third, Alex Albon had so many mishaps at times with other drivers. Who stood out for you?
I think you've also got to point out that Arthur Leclerc has won the F2 sprint race around that circuit only about an hour or so before taking part in this. So that would have taken something out of him. But yeah, the Leclerc brothers performed well. But look, Russell was the standout performer tonight. You know, very calm, very assured. He just dominated from start to finish, which, you know, this will be music to his ears. This will just be exactly the experience he wanted to have, and maybe, just maybe, he can translate that into the real racing world.
Indeed. Well, listen, let's have a look at the classification then before we wrap things up. Also, thank you very much to a few people who have been commenting on this shirt tonight. Yes, it is a little bit fancy. That was for Monaco. I think I smashed it, personally. Anyway, listen, George Russell in first, Esteban Gutierrez in second place, and Charles Leclerc. And all the drivers doing a fantastic job. Interesting, Pietro Fittipaldi didn't, obviously, finish in pole for quali, but just didn't deliver in the dry.
Oh, it was tough, wasn't it? You know, he really did put in a stonking lap in quali, but couldn't convert it. All that drama at the start just put paid to his race, and he's dropped down to P6 within a couple of laps.
Yeah.
Shame.
Well, shame, but listen, we come to the end. DHL fastest lap, I can now announce, is going to Mr. George Russell. So listen, let me do my thank yous. Thank you very much to Alex Jakes up there. George Russell, there you go. He's celebrating already, straight on the keyboard. Also, thank you very much to Matt Gallagher with the commentary. Natalie Pinkham, lovely to have you back. Next time, hopefully, we'll be back 7th of June for Azerbaijan. We will head to Baku. So listen, in the meantime, stay safe, and we'll see you again soon.
All 5 lights are on. It's all to race for. Coming to turn 4. Oh, he's hit him. He's done it. Oh, he's taken 2.